Welcome to Sense and Sustainability, your podcast channel for sustainable procurement. We hope you like what you hear. Please go to www.iso2400.org for more information, learning resources, tools, and much more.
So, welcome to Sense and Sustainability. This is the first of our podcasts where we revisit those people that have recorded podcasts with us before to understand what's happened in their lives and what's happened in their professional career. So it's my pleasure to re-welcome Sanjay Kumar. Welcome, Sanjay.
Thank you so much, Son, to speaking with you, and it's always been a pleasure, talking to you on this subject.
Okay, so last time we spoke, Sanjay, you were telling us the story of your lockdown experience, where you actually wrote during lockdown. You actually sat and wrote an entire book on sustainable procurement, and you very kindly sent me a hard copy, which I've read with interest. So, can you tell us a bit about the book, what the reaction has been to it, and then what's been happening in your life since we last spoke?
Thank you, Son. I think we last discussed on this podcast sometime in December 2022, and that was the time the book was about to come. And book finally came in October, I believe, the online version, and then the physical copy came in December, right? And since then, I see that it has been well received by the different stakeholders. If you look at the number of downloads around the world, it's more than 3,500. And considering that the price of the book, the publisher, they keep very high price. And that becomes very kind of a barrier for people, especially in the global south. But then I've seen that the response from global south, global north is equally good, right? And I get data analytics from the Springer Nature, who is the publisher, and the book has been doing constantly, ever in the segment in which this book fall. And sometimes I'm surprised to see, the response from or the country, the name of the countries from which it has been downloaded. It has already crossed more than around 70, 78 countries worldwide. And some of the countries you will be surprised, like say in Egypt, in Rwanda, like otherwise you won't hear, that anything is happening on sustainable public procurement in those countries. But Egypt, I found that it was among the top 15 countries where the most number of copies have been downloaded. Right, so that was something, very surprising to me as well. So book has been doing great, in fact, I would say, in that particular category. Considering that, this is very specific, very niche. Hopefully they will, pick up something and they will implement those in their own work. Yeah.
That's fantastic, isn't it? Who'd have thought that many people in the world would want to read a book about sustainable procurement? It looks like we've arrived as a topic. That's fantastic. Congratulations, Sanjay.
Thank you.
A huge effort on your part to put the book together with all the case studies and the examples, etc. So that's amazing. The other thing that we found in ISO2400.org, obviously we monitor traffic to the website. And since we've been doing some more digital marketing and, making sure that we appear on the right Google searches, etc., and we promote specific aspects of our site, the traffic from India has been amazing. It's 10 times the traffic to our website from any other country, which is quite astonishing, really. And again, who'd have thought that many people in India are interested in sustainable procurement, but obviously they are. So what's your perspective, Sanjay, in things that are going on in India? And also personally, I understand since we last met, you've actually changed roles and you're operating now independently as a consultant.
Yeah, since the book came, I was at that point of time, I was with the government. Then, there is some time in your life when you think that, what are you doing actually, right? So it was going satisfactorily as far as the work was concerned, but I was not very happy with the progress in terms of sustainable procurement, which was my passion, and I wanted to pursue that. So since the things was not moving further, my ability to make an impact was getting limited, right? So I needed some space to, and my question for me was like, what do you need to do to change or to make a bigger impact? And the answer which I got, you need to take a step away from where you are, leave the comfortable zone. Then I decided to establish a small firm named Next Gen Procurement Solutions, and we provide services to the government. It has been it's about 1.5 years since the Next Gen has started, and I'm glad that the kind of impact now I'm able to make is tremendous as compared to what I was doing while working with the government. So different project, currently I support more than 11 governments in Asia Pacific, which is a great number, and on different aspects related to sustainable public procurement. So my call to move out from the government service and jump into the sustainability field as a professional turned out to be good. Yes, I'm able to contribute and I'm able to create an impact at a scale, which this is what I wanted. So I'm happy in that sense. And coming to India, if you look at during the last 2-3 years, couple of things which you can say that which is driving the traffic from on-sustainable procurement from the various sectors in India, right? Number one is without any guess, it's a population. So many people and so many funding is going into the infrastructure sector. So naturally, when you are trying to invest so much of amount in the infrastructure sectors, not in the government sectors, but at least in the private sectors, people are concerned that they need to take care of the environment and society if they want to progress. As we know, the procurement could be the great lever for achieving those objectives. So the big driver is, I'll say that big private players, they are into this and they have started internalizing this concept into their corporate strategy and they are working on it. Second, I will say that the immediate reason for traffic flow could be, this is just my guess, could be the CBAM, which came from the European Union. Carbon border adjustment mechanism, as you see, it will have a lot of impact, especially in India, on the steel and aluminum sector. So some traffic I see that will be coming from the CBAM as well, and due to the CBAM as well. And the good impact has already started happening of the CBAM. The indirect impact, what has happened as a result of CBAM is that the renewable capacity, whatever was there in India, is all sold out. Earlier, they had something that, okay, they will come up with the plant, they will have some energy which is not being sold at the moment. But at this point of time, all renewable capacity is sold out. And even for the plants, renewable plants which are going to come in 2-3 years, for them also, they have a purchase agreement. So that has been the indirect impact because all the industries wanted to reduce their GHG emission by taking renewable so that their export doesn't get impacted due to the CBAM. And the third one is, in general, if you see, like awareness is happening. And within India also, government is going to come up with the regulation on carbon trading. In fact, in 2023, they have already came up with some kind of mechanism. Later on, they revised it, but soon we'll have a functioning carbon market in India. So that becomes another kind of a lever why people might be going to the site. But the most important reason, which I believe, is that the site itself, if you look at the ISO 2400 website, it provides a lot of information, which is not generally available anywhere at free of cost. So thanks to you and your team for providing those information. Those are very valuable information for anyone who wants to dive into sustainable public procurement or to learn about sustainability in general. So I think this is the biggest reason because you are providing quality material at no cost to anyone who wants to understand the subject and adopt it into their day-to-day working. So big thanks to you.
I didn't ask for an advert for our site, but thank you very much for it anyway, Sanjay. No, it's interesting, isn't it? So what you're saying is, there's various legislative and customer requirements coming down the line, and I think we're seeing this as well in other countries, particularly in the United States. The impact of CSRD, even though it's not regulation in the United States, but because a lot of American companies supply into the European Union, then they're having to do it. And I guess it's the same in India with, if you're exporting into the EU, there are things that you need to do. And then there's the issue of legislation in India as well. And I guess what that's doing is it is obviously driving people to seek help, which is great. It's what we do. And then also, you've talked about the experience in the global south compared to the north and the west of the world, and affordability. I mean, you talked about the price of the book, and you're very, very impressed that people are buying the book, despite the fact that, basically it's at European prices, but not necessarily affordable. So it does make the availability of free resources much, much more important to people, I guess. And certainly my message to anybody out there, particularly in India, is if you have experience to share, please get those resources up on the site, because at the end of the day, ISO2400.org is not about us or the team or the steering group or anybody telling you what to do. It's actually a knowledge platform for people to share their knowledge. And it would be great to get more resources, case studies, etc., from India to encourage people to get involved. So you've spoken a bit about India at large, and you're saying it's mostly the private sector players that are driving this, presumably because there's a desire to export in other parts of the world. How are things going in the public sector? Because there was a task force, wasn't there, in India? I don't know if it still exists, that was fairly similar to the one that we had in the UK in 2005. What's the experience in government from your perspective?
Yeah, you're right. Government in 2018, they came up with the task force on sustainable public procurement. And I was also the member of the task force at that point of time. But, in the government sectors, it's always an issue of kind of a promotion or shifting due to other commitment and so on. People move. So at that point of time, the gentleman who was there as a chairman of the task force was very much interested, and we had a 6 meeting in almost 6 month time. And thereafter, somebody came to the by that position and was not interested in this subject. And since then, I have not heard much about what happened to the task force. I also, being a member, I don't have any communication from the ministries on like what is happening on the task force. So, but leaving apart, the other development are happening from the other players. Like Ministry of Steel, for example, now they have come up with the taxonomy with related to climate change. And they are also, I hear that, drafting some kind of guidelines for giving incentive to the suppliers who are making greener steel using the scrap iron materials. So these things are happening, and I think once that guideline comes up, that will be definitely a good step, especially in a poor sector like steel, because that is a hard to build sector. And then also, if you look at big materials, right? Cement. So cement also, a lot of development has been taking place, and the cement manufacturer here are also doing well in the sense that they are aligned to the carbon neutrality goals of the Global Cement Manufacturing Association. And we have variety of cements, blended cements, Ozolna, blast furnace, fly ash, clay, and so on. And you have IS standard for all that. Indian standards, basically quality standard. So when you shift from ordinary Portland cement to this kind of cements, then your GHG emission reduce almost by 1/3. So that is again good thing is happening because the share of this kind of cement has increased drastically. Now it's roughly about 70-80%. Whatever is being produced in India, those are blended cements. So this is a big help. Whether the government wants or not, the private players are going to buy only those cement because that is the only thing available. And I had a talk with few colleagues from the manufacturing side of the cement. They said that in another 5 or so many years, we are not going to manufacture Portland cement, even if it is demanded by the government. So in some of the government unit, they have already moved on to blended cement, but some are still prescribing the Portland cement. But I'm hopeful that as the market sinks for the Portland cement, they will also move to the blended cements. And that will be big gain in terms of GHG emission and security point of view. We also have related to the construction again, like carbon and demolition regulation. So it came up long back in 2018 or 2019 and all, but now it takes time to set up ecosystem for taking your construction waste and making it into something useful which could be reused. So at least in the bigger cities, they have now developed the ecosystems, and there are few market players have come up and they have established, and it has actually started happening. So I see that wherever the new construction is taking place, they will use the paver block, and block will more in the most of the cases it will be made from the CND waste, right? And some of the the government has also come up with the policy like for new construction you need to use CND waste up to so many percent to that extent. So that is also happening. So regulation and at the same time this ecosystem coming up, the ecosystem of the CND, the whole process, it has helped. So again, working on this area, I find that slowly, as market player, they gain the experiences of using, slowly the percentage of utilization of CND waste will go up. Currently it's less. If you compare it with the Europe or the UK percentage, it's very less. Yeah.
You mentioned construction, and from what little I understand of business in India, the scale of construction going forward is enormous. I mean, if you look at certainly in the UK and generally across Europe, most of the buildings that we need, we already have. So retrofit becomes a massive, massive issue in the UK. But somebody told me that sort of something like by 2050 or whatever the date was, 70% of the buildings in India don't exist yet. Whereas, I think a very high percentage of buildings in Europe in 2050 will still be the same buildings already there. So the opportunity and the size of the challenge in construction in India is absolutely mind-boggling. And, your examples of, using cement and recycling and those sorts of things, there's an opportunity to kind of skip a technology, isn't there? As you say, why, if Portland cement is not the right sort of cement to use for carbon in future, then why use it at all in this new world of construction? It's an incredible opportunity and a challenge, obviously.
You're right, absolutely right about the fact 70% of the infrastructure and housing needs which will be required by 2060 or 2050, they are still yet to be made. It doesn't exist, right? So just imagine, like when we compare the solutions, what solution is right for you? As you see in the Europe, you have old buildings, so there you have retrofitting, but here you have opportunity from the very beginning in the selection of materials, what kind of material you are using and what kind of technology you are going to use. So those things becomes very important, and that makes this sector very promising, because if so much of investment is going to come in these sectors, and if you want to get locked into some old technology or old materials, you will have to pay the huge price for that. So this is a big challenge. How do we select those kind of materials? There is also potential to use secondary material, but here currently we face challenges in terms of how do you ensure the quality of the secondary material, right? We are yet to develop quality standards on those materials. So unless we come up with some kind of standards on those materials, it's difficult to use, because building or any infrastructure is going to last for 30, 40 years. So these are some of the challenges which we have, but I understand that people are working on it.
Big technical challenge, isn't it, to come up with these solutions? As we said earlier, the traffic from India to ISO2400.org is swamping everything else. And you and I have had a conversation about, well, if we've got such a wide audience in India, then what can we do for India? And we've had a conversation about maybe recording a webinar with some key players from your country to have a sort of a wider debate about what's going on and what we might be able to learn. Would you like to talk a little about that? I know it's early days yet to get it organised, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the webinar could be a good idea, because considering the traffic from the India, this definitely shows that There are people who are interested in learning this subject. As a ISO 2400 objective is to reach out to the people and provide the knowledge, irrespective of the places, geography, and in which part of the world you live. So, organizing a webinar would be a great idea, especially focus on the issues related to India. And we can invite people from the industries who understand the subject, from the steel or from the cement, considering the focus on the construction, and see like what could be the opportunity in terms of learning. That will be a great learning experience for all of us, because they will come up with the new insights, I'm sure. Whenever you have a discussion with anyone, you are always going to gain in terms of knowledge and learning. So I'm sure that webinar will come up with the new insights. So it's a really good idea, and we should have it sooner than later.
Yeah, well, we're looking to record in May. Hopefully, we can get some really interesting guests to have a conversation, and then we'll put that out on the site for people to enjoy and to listen to, and hopefully to get a little bit more into what's going on in India. Sanjay, anything else you'd like to cover as part of this conversation?
I think ISO 2400, which is doing a great job and has provided a lot of material, relevant material, as I said. But there is also a need to develop country-specific material. If we can tweak some of the existing material which are available on the website and provide tailor-made materials, that would be really something of good value to the people who are browsing on the website. So this is something we can think of. And earlier we had a discussion, if you remember, like sustainability school. That could also be extended to India.
I'd love to do that. So we've had some conversations about it, but never with others, but never kind of quite got that off the ground. But I think, as you know, yes, we launched Supply Chain Sustainability School in Ireland last year, and we've launched in the United States in January this year, which is quite a big challenge. Yeah, we'd love to do something like that in India, particularly if we look at the size of the construction sector, or the potential size of the construction sector in India. Again, to be able to start with a really good crop of resources and tools to get into the sector at the very beginning be a fantastic opportunity. But it's about sort of having those contacts and getting people interested in getting involved, which has always been a challenge. But we've done it in Ireland, we've done it in America, we've done it in Australia. So why can't we do it in India? Yeah. Okay, well, Sanjay, it's been fascinating to catch up with you. We will be talking to you again when we do the webinar with some other people from the world of sustainable procurement in India. So thank you very much for giving us your news and everything that's going on in your part of the world. And we look forward to the webinar recording in May. Thank you.
Thank you, Sohan, for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to the webinar in May, and I hope that a number of people will be able to join this webinar and get benefit from that. We are also looking in terms of getting knowledge from the people who are participating in the webinar. So look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our podcast on Sense and Sustainability. Please listen out for more episodes. For more information, learning resources, tools, and much more content on sustainable procurement, go to www.iso2400.org.